Namaste, everyone. Welcome to the Cārvāka podcast. This is Kushalmehra. So today we're going to be focusing on the future of the Jewish community in the West. So for those who don't know, recently there was an unfortunate attack by a jihadi. Now here's the interesting thing: the person's literal name is Jihad. So I mean, if I'm calling him a jihadi, I'm being quite literal here. And there was a synagogue in Manchester where this jihadi went, and he attacked innocent members of the Jewish community, and innocent people lost their lives, and I think the jihadi was neutralized. But this is a pattern since October 7th, where we've seen a lot of members of the Jewish community, whether it's in Canada, whether it's in the United States of America, whether it's in the United Kingdom and other parts of the Western world, that have been constantly attacked all the time. So I want to talk about it. And as always, Catherine is here. Catherine, thank you very much for coming.
My pleasure. It's always great to see you and to have those discussions with you, even though I'd like it to be under better circumstances.
Yeah, so Catherine, I want to understand this. This is my first question because I was so pissed off and I had messaged you. I was so angry at that time. It's like, how does a British system, like, this guy's name is Jihad. It's written. His name is Jihad. How can the British system not monitor something like this? Is what I don't understand. Like, I think countries like India have a state capacity issue. Why does England have a state capacity issue?
It's a good question. I don't have an answer to that other than the fact that this is my belief, and it's based on facts. So it's not like I'm not wishing upon a star. I think the government is guilty for not taking the threat seriously. I think a lot has to do with the fact that they do not want to be labeled as Islamophobe. There's a fear. There's been something that has been going on, and I would say I would go back as early as 2001. After September 11, when you had an immediate backlash, if you recall, against Muslims because people were absolutely horrified at the Twin Tower attack. Hundreds of people died. We all know how it went, and then Afghanistan was invaded, Iraq was attacked, and the rest is history, as they say. And I think that because things were not handled the right way, in that a faith was automatically being labeled for the act of a few, we get put to sleep. Whereas any form of criticism was labeled as being irrational, not understanding that. I think that was kind of the point. They weaved a narrative around our ears and we played right into it. In that, again, by fear of not being tolerant or appear to be compassionate towards what has been labeled a protected minority, and those are Muslims, that we were not allowed to say anything at all about them. Not the fact that, those Muslim communities who do not want to break the law and who do not believe in the laws of the caliphate, are being also penalized by our lack of, at least the inability that we have to react and act against jihadism and radicalism in all its form, because unfortunately there are many. And the thing that we have failed to understand, and I think this is the big problem that we have here in the UK, is that you have two currents. You have the Muslim Brotherhood, that a lot of Arab countries have understood as being the biggest threat, and only because the Muslim Brotherhood operates very differently from what the Islamic Republic of Iran is doing on the ground to absorb countries to its agenda. The Muslim Brotherhood operates democratically, which is quite interesting because if you recall again the Arab Spring in 2012, the way that they took over Egypt was through the ballot box. And what they do is that years prior to a takeover, they position people and they pay their way. And we have Qatar to thank for that. They pay their way into democratic institutions. Now, people could argue that Egypt was not a democracy, but its structure was democratic, even though, way back then, President Mubarak was definitely holding the country. Emergency laws were still in place. And so you had a hold over the country. And so only a coup d'etat or a revolution could work. And that's what they did. So they masqueraded, or they hid behind a revolution, what looked like a revolution that was manipulated into becoming one, and took over the state institution. And the Muslim Brotherhood is anti-monarchy. profoundly, which is why the likes of Bahrain and Kuwait, of course, Morocco and Saudi Arabia have a huge issue with them, including Jordan. Although Jordan, I'll set aside because I think the guy is he has suicidal thoughts because he first of all he's married to a Palestinian who keeps clamoring to everyone who wants to hear her that she wants the end of everything that everyone holds dear in the Middle East. So go figure. Then on the other side, you have the Islamic Republic of Iran, who wants to take over by force. So what they do is that they find some kind of a fault within society and they punch a way through it, usually using the youth and the left. That's the model that they choose to dislodge the Shah. And then, off you go. You have a revolution, but that I personally call a coup d'etat. And the result is the same. You end up with a very Islamic society that is profoundly radical. It doesn't allow for any moderate side to actually have a voice. Now, the UK is being caught in between those two movements, where you have Muslim Brotherhood on the one side, the Islamic Republic on the other side. And a lot of the time, and I would say up until Manchester, probably October 7th, they were working together to pierce through the veil of democracy here in the West and trying to do their bidding. One, trying to absorb institution. And you see today we have more and more MPs and state officials who have abided by Hamas's agenda. And then on the other hand, you have the OSGC and the likes of them trying to take over the UK. And in between that, you have the very infamous flag of Palestine. And I think that we've been played profoundly, and I include myself in this, where I failed to see and to recognize. And for quite often we talked about, the caliphate and the rise of, and we misunderstood this flag that they wave is that of the caliphate. It's been rebranded. So Palestine is there, the whole, I would say, exercise that is to be pro-Palestinian and to be claiming liberation and to claim to decolonize whatever, because Zionism is the greatest exercise in decolonization, at least as far as I'm concerned, was hijacked. We were lied to. Values were inverted. And here we are, where you have this flag that is being waved everywhere in the UK to the detriment of the Union Jack, where people now, it's almost criminal to be, coming out with the British flag in the streets of the UK, which is insanity to me. Because we have been sold that, this is the only flag that can be raised, and that is the one of the caliphate. It has been replaced, so it's not anymore the black flag of ISIS. It is the flag of this Palestinian state that our prime minister, the president of France, and that of Spain were so keen on recognizing, not understanding that that was part of the agenda. All they have wanted to do, and they have understood, I think, since the 12 days war against Iran, that Israel is not to be pushed around, that Israel has the military means and political means to absorb a war and to win it. So they have decided to retreat and to, decided to put all their energy into conquering the West. And that means that a legal precedent needed to take place. And that took place, I'm afraid, when Macron and others decided to unilaterally recognize the state of Palestine, saying, here you go, now you have a legal precedent. Now, on the ground, it changes nothing for Israel, but it changes everything in terms of Europe standing, because now you just offered literally Al-Andalus and the Balkans on a silver platter to jihadists. And what do we do? What do we do when they use the same argument that they have used to declare a Palestinian state against the interests of Spain or France or other countries for that matter? And we need to remember that the Ottoman Empire was not too long ago. Spain spent more time under Islamic law, almost 8 centuries, that it has done free. And the Christian kings exerted a great deal of effort to try to free the land from Islamic radicalism, and they won, and they managed to do that. And now here we go again. History has repeated itself. And unfortunately, I think that the West is not aware that as they sell their Jews yet again, maybe not to the train this time, but to something else, they're coming with us. Here's a problem. We have a state to run back to. We have a land that we call home now. What do they have? Because if you lose the UK, where do you go? If you're British. If you're French and you lose France, where do you go? And I don't know if Israel and other countries across the world would be so keen on welcoming those people who have literally, excuse my French, shat on them for the great part of the decade. And this is a problem that France and Spain and the rest of Europe, including the UK, will have to reckon with. And I don't have the answer to that. But if they don't wake up and wake up yesterday, it's game over.
But what I'm not able to understand is that now I look at polling in Western countries among certain generations and certain groups. Now, even with the right in the United States of America and Canada,
Mm,
there is a distinct anti-Israel trend that has started to increase in the YouTuber space also. Like,
mm.
I have never understood this trend line, and what could be the possible factors for that. Like, okay, I understand what Tucker Carlson is doing, it's very
It's
obvious, but
money. It's money. It's money. Look, there's been an acceleration in the spending. Look, Qatar is a strange character because for I've been trying to make sense of it all because at the very beginning, I must say, I was foolish enough to think that Qatar, the Emir of Qatar, was a bit of an idiot and that he did not understand the power that he was playing with until I realized something. All roads in terms of financing leads to Qatar, and I think that Hamas is a good example. So Hamas is a Sunni terrorist organization. Okay, that thrive on the blood of Israelis and Jews. It's in its charter. They want to kill us all. They want to annihilate us. They have said it many times. October 7th, I think, made it clear. If anyone was under the impression that it wasn't true. But Hamas is a Sunni organization that is aligned with Iran, not ideologically, because ideologically it is the Muslim Brotherhood. Now the weapons come from the RSGC, the Islamic Republic of Iran, and the money is coming from Qatar. Qatar has hedged its bets where it's banking on either the RSGC or the Muslim Brotherhood to take over, and it doesn't care who wins because Qatar is the caliphate. And we made the mistake of not thinking that the money was the main drive. I was relying on the ideology, not understanding that the very reason why, Turkey did not pipe up too much, why Syria was able to become Syria, is that following the 12 Days War, there was an opening. There was a vacuum created in that the ISGC lost its proxy, its ability to exert power and project it outside of its borders. And so the Muslim Brotherhood said, hey, we get an opportunity here to take what was lost, Syria. Now you see in Morocco something that is quite interesting, that is a clear copy paste of the Arab Spring with the Gen Z movement. You see now elements of the RSGC trying to reclaim the narrative in Morocco. And the Muslim Brotherhood is doing everything it can to destabilize and force people to reject the king. Morocco has been a monarchy for eons. And so now we're going to be facing the reality of what happens if it falls. And I hope not. I really hope not. The problem is the king in Morocco will have to really buckle up and be willing to do the unthinkable. It is to crack down on this movement because even though you see young people, and this is the game being played again, is that it is very difficult for any standing government or nation to be slaughtering its youth when its youth has been taken over and literally under hypnosis by a bunch of radicals who are a bunch of lunatics who want to raise a regime that will be absolutely an abomination onto the face of the earth. So what do you do? And we have failed to recognize the writing on the wall, literally, and relate to that party, and I mean that blood will be spilled. And this is something that enraged me because years and years ago, when I came out of the regime, and I talked about the danger of facing the diaspora, the Jewish diaspora here in the UK, as an example, I've warned that the things that we saw took place in the synagogue in Manchester were going to happen. They have lists, and here's the problem: they jumped on in the queue of things, those targets that they had, where before people could be, synagogue could be targeted. They wanted to target activists and figure within the community that they felt were leaders. And I think that the Charlie Kirk story really explained that well. So they've done it in America. I didn't think that they were going to decentralize what they were doing, looking at these jihadist movements as a global phenomenon and attack a specific targets in America. targets, and other targets here in the UK, I saw that the play was going to be the same everywhere, and that they were going to follow the order of things, but they didn't. Um, and it makes me angry that we failed to recognize what was going to happen, even though I said it a million times. I went on podcasts like yours. I've written about it until I'm blue in the face, and I spoke in many different conferences and things like that. Things haven't changed. People don't understand. And I tell you who's next on the list, and that worries me: kids. And I'm not saying Jewish kids, and people may say, oh, she only cares about the Jewish community. Yes, I do, but not only. I'm a mother. I care about people. I care about other people's children. I'm worried that they're next. And they have said it. We haven't paid attention. If you look at, and they're on TikTok, that pains me. You see all those crazy people going on TikTok and warning that kids will be next in line. And Mossad actually stopped an attack in Germany against such schools. It's a problem now. So what do we do? What do we do when it's a Christian school or a Hindu school or whatever school? Because for that matter, I don't care what religion you are, what ethnic minority you're a part of. Your life is just as worthy as mine. I want to defend you, and I hope that you'll do the same for me, because we are people after all. They don't seem to have the same value as we do. They don't value human life, and they certainly don't value that of children. Remember, in their book, women and children are commodities to be sold onto the marketplace. They won't blink before they sacrifice our own. And it worries me when I see those people not understanding what we're looking at, the kind of monstrous ideology that they're allowing by saying free Palestine. Okay, you want to free Palestine, great. Free it from Hamas if you want to free it from something.
What worries me is, I don't know if you followed this case in Montreal. There was this incident last year, and the video came out this year, Catherine. This year. The authorities hushed it. This
Mm.
guy first attacks someone outside, then he jumps and then he jumps into a bus again, and then he attacks another person with a knife. Then he calls the cops and he says, I am doing it for ISIS. The entire conversation came on the news after 1 year.
That's exactly what, because look, they have a problem. They have an optic problem, and this is where we need to hold our state officials accountable and those we have elected in power. Is that for the sake of optics and not rallying the troops around the whole, oh, you being an Islamophobe and you being discriminatory, whatever, people stay quiet. They are counting on it. Look, there is a department within the RSGC intelligence services that caters to psychology and how best to apply and push certain levers to make sure that people react in a certain way. And to do that, first, what they have done is to draw a psychological profile of certain individuals, state officials, those who want to be and become state officials, and the population as a whole. So they mapped us out quite clearly. They know exactly what to do. They understand the power of the media because they have indoctrinated us quietly for decades, courtesy of Al Jazeera, for example. It's a perfect example, Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera was not, if you go back to a decade ago, Al Jazeera was not as vile as it is today because they have upped the ante. So they just raise the temperature ever so slowly. It went up quite clearly on October 7th. And now they're saying things that they would not have dreamt of saying 10 years ago. Why? Because we have become tolerant to it. We have been conditioned. It's an exercise in indoctrination that we have failed to recognize because our state officials and wannabe politicians lack courage. They don't have chutzpah. They don't have the stomach for the fight that is coming, hoping that if they show and play nice, if they show, oh, I'm a tolerant person, look at me, I have such moral, I have the moral high ground, that maybe you're going to forget that they exist and maybe you're going to avoid targeting the community. It doesn't work this way with radicalism. You have to be very tough. You have to be even, I would say, and argue, tougher than them. And it doesn't mean that you have to slaughter and butcher people because we have to take the high road. But you need to be clear about the lines that you were not allowed to be crossed. And unfortunately, we haven't because we want to be tolerant and we want to entertain people feelings and say, oh, if you are offended, well, I take offense when you murder and butcher women and children. I take offense when you objectify women and children, reducing them to commodities and making sure that they fall into the trap of human slavery. Do I need to remind you that this book that they cherish so much is a how to enslave your neighbor manual? And this is not me leveling accusation. It is the truth. Read it. And it angers me that people are still saying, "Oh, but not all." No, not all. I agree, not all practice it, but those who do it well and do it to the point where we can't talk about them or against them by saying, "Oh no, so now do we have to be pro-slavery?" Is that the message that our officials are sending? Because that's what I'm hearing. But because we don't want to admit to the truth, people are too cowardly to do so. And it's there's a point in time where you're going to have to say, well, no, I have values and mine are better than yours, because mine doesn't render 50% of the population as objects. That's the reality. So what do? Do we say, no, they all like us? No, they're not. They're not like us. And those who, hold to this faith, and they may, if they wish to, have the courtesy to speak against it when it needs to be spoken against, because it needs to be. Like Judaism is not perfect. Like, no, there's no faith that is perfect. I mean, in Christianity, you have slavery too. It's being legislated over. Do people practice it? No, it was abolished. Can they do the same, please?
Yeah, it's crazy, but I want to share this for the listeners. This happened last year. I repeat, it happened last year, but the news report finally came out this year with the video and everything. So the man's name was Abdul Aziz Kamam, 30 years old. He assaulted a man with a knife at a bus stop near Fraser Highway and 156th Street, and before boarding a bus, and then he slashed another passenger in the throat. Here's the kicker: April 1st, 2023. Luckily, both men survived. But this is not the kicker. We are in 2025, Catherine, and the Canadian news is now comfortable with talking about it and sharing the details. But what are the details? Catherine, this man calls the cops himself in the 911 call, and I'm quoting this man, quote,
Mhm.
"I pledge my allegiance to Abu al-Hussein al-Husseini al-Qureshi Hafizullah," he told the 911 operator who asked, "Sir, what's going on behalf of the Islamic State, I just did an attack in the bus." When the operator asked what happened, Kawam said, "You want the war to end, become Muslim, or pay the jizya to the Islamic State? Don't be a fool and hide this message from your people, because this will hurt civilians."
I
It's
mean, okay, so
batshit
here's my
crazy.
question. Whose? Because this is civilians. Whose? Who are we talking about here? Who are we protecting? Because this is the question. Because the only people that we need to protect are the innocent, those who haven't asked for anything, civilians. So if a man who is professing Islamic radicalism needs to be protected, or the faith that he belongs to needs to be protected, beg to differ or disagree. And this is not to say they need to be put in danger, but there's a difference. They need to be held accountable for the thing that they say and the thing that they don't say. Because the problem that we have today is that not enough is being said against it by people who belong to it. Because they keep telling us not all Muslims are radicals. Show me. Show me. Stand with us. Stand for democracy. You are welcome anywhere all the time. We have talked about it. Immigration is always, unless it's unfettered, always a plus for a civilization. It's always beneficial to a country to have great young minds and other minds to come in and make it better. Of course, we know this, okay? The reason why the Great British Empire was so great is that it went outside of its borders and brought the best of the best back in, and grew society the way that it did. And granted, it wasn't always willing immigration, but as a result, we have wonderful community here in the UK that have bettered this country time and time and time again. Now, what are we to say if we're abandoning all minorities for the sake of a faith that has vowed to disappear every one of us? What does it say about us? Are we like willing participant into like some kind of a great sacrifice that I didn't sign up for? Because I didn't sign up for it. I'm sorry, and I want to retain my ability to disagree with people and to change my mind if I feel like it. Call me nuts. I want to exercise critical thinking. It's a thought. It's a thing that we do in the West and other countries where democracy has been adopted. And I think that, like if you take a country like India, I mean, you have so many different way of ways of life that are being accepted, and multiculturalism is, is India. India is great in many things put together. It works when you let it, but if you have one lunatic sect that decides to take over and to reduce you to slavery just because you disagree, or you have decided to abide by the tradition of your forefathers, they say to you outside of society, what kind of message is that? That is the definition of slavery. Maybe not physical, although when they talk about, dhimmi, you have to pay a tax. That is physical slavery. It's a mental one. It's a religious one. Don't impose your belief system. And I have a question. If they are so convinced that their way is the way and the best way, okay, you already won. By your own standard, you already won. You're going straight to heaven. You're going to have your 72 whatevers. What do you care about me? Why are you so intent on converting me to your way of life? I don't want to. I don't want to. And if anyone goes to hell, be me. So what do you care? I don't understand it. And they're so petrified at the idea that someone may one day leave that they want to condemn you to death. It doesn't sound like you have the truth to me. It sounds like, you want me to sign with blood somewhere on a pact with the devil, and you don't want me to let go when I come back to my senses. And this is not a criticism, it's a question, genuine question. I want to understand why. Why is it that you feel that, the second that someone criticizes or doesn't agree, you will become an enemy of God? God is much greater than you. He doesn't, he gave us the freedom of choosing and critical thinking. It's not to take it back just because you said so, because that would be the greatest injustice. If a God tells you, or God tells you, that you are free to choose, it means that I'm allowed to say no, and I'm allowed to choose the wrong way. That is my problem. You can't take back and judge me on something that you already given me. Freedom of choice. What kind of a lunacy is this? It's not even logical. And God is nothing but logic. And also, he is compassionate, isn't he? What kind of compassion is this? It's like, oh, if you disagree with me, but I give you freedom of thinking and critical thinking, I'm going to send you straight to hell just because you disagreed with me. Then don't give me that freedom. But you can't take it back because I didn't comply with your wishes. What kind of compassion is that? So even a lot of the thing that they profess is not logical. It doesn't hold the road. And maybe I'm silly, maybe I'm stupid too, possibility. But if I don't understand it, don't judge me for something that I can't possibly understand, because the game has been rigged. You can't be the judge and, I don't know, and jury at the same time. They decide who goes and who doesn't go to hell. Please don't tell me you're so smart that you can understand the scriptures, because you cannot. Which is why in Judaism we have rabbis, to try to make sense of everything. But even they don't claim to understand everything. Don't have the audacity to claim to know God when you do not, and you're not a prophet.
Yeah, but then how does an average Jewish kid growing up in New York, or growing up in, Bathurst and Shepherd area in Toronto,
Mm.
or let's say in some parts of England, like in England, I know because I think it was 2-3 years ago when we had met in England, and you had told me that the Jewish community is going to start moving from England.
They are.
Like,
Look,
what
I've
the
had.
hell? This is not a solution. Like, doesn't the Prime
I
Minister
don't
of
want
England
us to
realize
do.
that?
Look, we are, and I'm doing the same. By the way, I'm out. I'm out. I'm gonna call it today, because look, I spent a good decade of my life trying to warn the West. Look, the work that I did, I'm not gonna lie to you and say, oh, I've done it for the great of the world. No, I've done it for the great of my community. I'm not gonna lie at all. My purpose was very selfish. Now, as I was doing it, I realized that also I had a duty to everyone else, because I don't want to live in a world where Israel is safe and the rest of the world is not, because it doesn't make Israel safe. In order for Israel to be safe, everyone else, your community, my community, and everyone else in between, needs to be safe. Now, I did the best I could to warn people, but I keep receiving death threats. What do you want me to do? I'm not going to take a bullet for people because they are too blind or too cowardly to actually see what is written right in front of them, who is standing right in front of them. It's a monster. Islamic radicalism, whether Shia or Sunni, is a monstrosity and needs to be fought. If they don't want to fight, I'm going to go home and do it from there, where my people are worth defending. But I cannot stand in the firing line while people are hiding behind me, calling me the problem. I'm not going to take a bullet for those people. Sorry. So I'm going to go and I'm going to go and defend the innocent. And look, you have Donald Trump, who's doing a magnificent job, and people may think what they want of him. I don't care. He's doing what he can for his country. Many people are doing what they can for their country. It's time for people to decide who they want to defend, do it from home, and then choose for their friends those amongst them who want the same thing. And you need to do it outside of your country because we need friends. We need to understand that we need to build this great coalition against Islamic radicalism. And Arab countries got the message. Saudi Arabia is fighting terribly hard against the Muslim Brotherhood because they understand. And they understand that the OIGC right now is not so much a problem in that it has been, cut off at the knee by the Israelis. The Israeli government and military did a great job in reducing the threat that the Iranian regime poses. And so now we bought ourselves a few years. And so now they're concentrating on the Muslim Brotherhood. And so should we. But in the UK, the West, they are here. They're already here. And so we're leaving. Because if a government doesn't want to protect us, and there is no future for our children here, and they're going to get picked up and put in a train yet again, because the French and the Spanish are really good at this. And the British avoided that fate just because they had one great man, Winston Churchill, and I can't see one in the horizon. We're leaving. And there is a say in France, is that when the Jews leave, they will eat black bread. And this is not a threat. This is to say, then when people who abide by the law and work terribly hard and prize education, just the way you do, above everything else, because with a good education, you always make it. You're going to be left with a country of, analphabets and people who want to break stuff for a living. And I don't think I'm mistaken when I say that your community will follow very soon. Because what future are they going to buy themselves and their children? And they do value their children because, unlike some people, we do not think that children are commodities or an extension of ourselves. They're there to be loved and to be built into wonderful human beings, and they're going to go and do their way. And they're probably going to look back and think that we were crazy to do, and the thing that we did. Our duty as parents is to protect our children, and we're not doing it from here because we are incapable of doing it. The government is not giving us the tools to do that. So what are we to do but to leave? And it kills me because I love this country very much. It's a great country still. And I would love the monarchy to wake up in the UK because they have a role to play here. It's a question of, are we going to make it to the next decade? And I think that the answer so far is no. We won't make it. And when I say we, I don't mean, the Jewish community. I mean the great we as the British people, because we are British. Those communities that came in the 60s and the 50s and the 40s and the whatever are the British people. It doesn't matter where you come from, where you're born, is an incident of geography, is where you decide to make a life that matters to me and the loyalty that you hold. And you could be, you could be British Indian, you could have loyalty to India and Britain because the values are similar. And as long as you abide by the law of the land where you live, then you are a citizen of that country. End of sorry discussion. Your skin color, ethnicity don't matter. Your religion don't matter. But if you pledge allegiance to another, then we have a problem.
So what do you make of the things that are happening in United Kingdom overall? Like, I think it was Tommy Robinson who held this giant rally, and quite a giant number of people turned
Mm,
up, didn't they? So
they did.
isn't there hope at all? Like, how do we judge it? And
So
with
I
Tommy
see.
Robinson, they always call him all sorts of names. So I'm not really
Well, look,
able to understand.
they called him. Look, up until recently, and I'm talking about 2-3 years ago, Tommy Robinson, I just genuinely didn't care. Now I saw what happened to him, and this whole story of the grooming gang, and how hard he has fought to denounce what they were doing, and I thought that was. I mean, he risked everything to save young women. And I don't actually care what nationality they are or why those people were doing what they were doing on the basis of, we chose them because ethnically speaking, they were white or whatever. It doesn't matter. Those girls were girls and they were brutalized, and I will stand with them any day of the week because it's not okay to be abusing children. Now, they have called him racist. I don't know because I haven't seen proof of that. I see someone, and I reserve judgment on him because I don't know him. And I know little about him beyond what the media has said, and I tend to not listen. So when the media tells me to hate somebody, I want to look closer, and I want to look beyond the media narrative because I don't like to be played for a fool, and I've been played for a fool many times. Um, I don't know what to make of him, if I'm honest with you, because he's definitely a product of radicalism in that he's the solution to people being pushed so far beyond the tolerable that a reaction was bound to take place, and it did. And Tommy, I feel, is a product of that. Is this impossible situation that many British people feel that they find themselves in, where they can't find justice, they can't find a platform, they can't find a voice. And so now they have pushed back and pushed back strongly. And you have the whole raise the flag situation where people wanted to reclaim lost ground, their nationality, their nationalism, their patriotism. And I don't think those are bad words. You need to be careful though, because again, when you are faced with radicalism, the tendency that we have is to react by ourselves enacting radicalism of a different form. And that what worries me is that I don't want to see his movement hijacked by people whose ambition are different than promoting a healthy, multicultural, democratic society. And I don't know, because I don't know him and I don't know the people around him. I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. I know that the Israeli are doing just that. And I don't know whether I agree or not. I'm really not sure.
Yeah, see, for me, it was very interesting that the the sheer number of people that turned up in Israeli, like I've been quietly following Tommy Robbins's career for 2010 onwards, I think, and I've
Mm.
always found him to be a very fascinating character. I've never spoken to him personally beyond a few
Maybe you
WhatsApp
should.
messages.
Maybe you should have him on.
Yeah, like we just exchanged a few WhatsApp messages at one point of time, and that's about it. I've never spoken anything beyond that, just being
Mm.
very honest. But I never thought he was a racist. Like
I don't think
I
he's
never,
either.
yeah, I
Uh,
don't think he's a racist, but I just found it very fascinating that uh, if you can organize a rally where such giant numbers of
mm.
people turn up,
I think
well,
3 million. I mean, I know that people said, "Oh no, it was 100,000," but I've looked at the images and I'm thinking that that's not 100,000 people. That's a lot more. But I don't know. What numbers did you hear?
I don't know. They said more, almost a million people turned up, and that's a lot of people for something
Mm.
like a subject like this. That's a lot of people, and let's see, like what electoral outcomes that it leads to. Now, also on these messages, when it comes to Keir Starmer, right, and the
Mhm.
Labour government, where suddenly they have started, giving these messages. Obviously, Tommy Robinson's work is more immigration based, but let's make no bones about it. Tommy Robinson is opposed to, he says it very openly, Islam. I would say it should be political Islam, and its usage in the average life of any country in the world. My problem has always been with political Islam and its privileges
Yeah,
that that emanate from it, and the threats that emanate from it. Muslims as an individual person, as long as they live in a secular society, I have no issues.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. The issue, but see, you said it. It's about secularism. We need to protect. Look, the only way that you can offer religious freedom to a country when you have multiculturalism is secularism. Because otherwise, look, you want to believe quietly from the sanctity of your own home. Don't let it seep into the public sphere, because then it creates problems and tension, and then you want to have privileges that you're not owed. You're not owed. Look, this country here, the UK, is a Christian country. As a Jewish woman, I respect that, and there's no problem. I understand, for example, that Christianity and Christian values and the festivals take precedent over mine. I get that. I live here, courtesy of the crown. And so, as long as I live in this country, I have to play by the rules, and that's okay. And if I'm not happy, then I can leave. This is important. And yes, you can make some arrangement to make sure that people have the space that they need. They have their mosque, and then we have our synagogues and whatever. Fantastic. Temples are being built. That is normal. I think that's being respectful. But those are privileges, and they need to be respected as such, and they need to be appreciated as such, because King Charles doesn't have to allow for a synagogue to be built because it's not a Christian. It's a Christian country. It's not a Jewish country. So technically speaking, if they were to say no, well, tough luck. but they are entitled to say no, it is their country. And so I think that we need to be careful and to be grateful that religious freedom is a thing in this country. But if we don't defend secularism, it won't be for long. And that was worries me. People don't understand the difference in between promoting secularism and abiding by the rules of multiculturalism. And oh, you being Islamophobic. Why? Just because I said no? And because people are saying, oh, maybe we have enough mosques? Come on. Where does it say that you have to? It's, that we need to find a way to live together, and screaming and being upset all the time over everything and demanding that halal food be made available in schools, for example. No, no. And I would say, if people want to have kosher food, I would say no too. It's secular values. School is a public school. If you want to send your kids to a Jewish school, then do so. They will have kosher food made available to them. Don't impose your way of life and religious belief onto other people. That goes for everybody. When I sent my kids to public school, I didn't ask for special provision to be made for them. They follow the rules, end of story. And there's always an alternative. You can eat vegetarian option, and that's fine. Then if you're really not happy, then send your kids to whatever religious school, of your choosing. That's fine. You have that freedom too, but don't impose on the greater public those things that they don't have to play by, because they're not you. And they don't have to be, because you're in their country.
So then how does England deal with this then? Or how does the West, like you have Qatari influence, you have the IRGC influence. And listen, I'm actually now, like, when I listen to Candace Owens, like,
Oh
God,
my God, that one.
I
It's
was
just, I
like,
don't know, like, what is she
is there,
drinking?
there is something wrong? Like, how can you be like this?
Money. It's money. Look, there's something that it's just, I think, look, I think again, they have a profile of people, they've raised profiles, psychological profiles of certain people who are more easily influenced. Okay. And this is not to say that the woman is not smart. She's terribly smart, a bit too smart for my liking, because she's, it's painful to watch her, I have to say, because I'm like, come on, you're a beautiful, smart woman. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Money. Money clouds people's judgment. Also, this desire to be influential today. People will literally sell their soul to the devil for the sake of a few clicks and likes on the internet and social media. And I don't understand it. I genuinely do not understand it. And people may want to call me a hypocrite because I'm right here talking to you. And of course, I want the podcast to do well. But I want people to, I don't want to give into the sensational. I mean, if anything, I spend my career playing it down, genuinely. Because people have asked me, the question many times, and I just, decline, because I don't want what I am to be somewhat to become the story, as opposed to what I think and what I'm doing. And I don't want to make money on the back of my community, because I decided one day, well, I'm going to go and fight for you, because that's what I want to do. I want to protect. I'm not there to make, like, this is not a one woman show saying, hey, look at me. I don't care. If you want to listen to me because I have something important to say, then fine. But I'm not going to sell myself or twist myself like a pretzel just so that you would like me better, or say something sensational so that I would trend on the internet. And people like Candace, unfortunately, have done so. And I think it's terrible, because that woman doesn't need it. She's terribly bright. She's awfully pretty. What else do you want? You have a beautiful family. You have beautiful Christian values that you claim to want to uphold. What are you doing shitting on the neighbor? Calm down. It's okay. Jesus was a Jew. Chill. Seriously. They need to calm down.
I just don't understand. Like, even within the stand-up, where I started getting worried for the Jewish community is when the stand-up comics just
Yeah.
started this tide of changing, because I think there the pop culture element comes into things. And like, how did this happen? How did pop culture? Because you can see trends now.
I
University
think,
going kids are
yeah.
anti-Israel. I
It's the
don't even hide it.
trend.
They are
It's the
anti-Israel.
trend. It's the trend. Look, it started. I'm sure you will agree with me. Look, the since the era of social media kind of, happened, the youth is leading the cultural change. and changes that we see, because young people are behind their screen all the time. They understand, and I think that they can master social media a lot better than I can, for example, because I'm a bloody dinosaur now. And so they're driving the trends. They're driving the economy to a great deal, because you had this faction of influencers, and they generated billions of dollars on the back of social media, and their main demographic were young people. And so you have stand-up comedians in Hollywood and singers playing into their demographic and their market. And so it became trendy to be an anti-Semite and an anti-Zionist. And so that's what they did. And a lot of the time, people feel that they have to shit on Israel and us Jews for the sake of making a few bucks at the end of the month. They will regret it, because look, you don't make money on the back of hatred. And if you do, you'll come to regret it, soon enough. And I want to take them back to those women after the war in France who had their head shaved in shame because they had collaborated with the Nazis, or because they had gone away and married a Nazi because it was a way for them to survive. And why they did it, I don't actually care to get into it. They did what they did, because it was easier than to resist and to not sell your soul. They need to understand that you become what you say. Do you know the act? People tend to forget that the act of creation starts with a thought that is then spoken into reality. And so if you, for long enough, speak hatred, you will become that. I got news for you. Karma is a thing. It will come back and bite you in the ass. And it's a shame. It's a shame, because you can be critical. And we do it all the time. We criticize people, but I don't wish them ill. I just wish they could change their mind. And I will criticize violence, because violence, if I don't, then I become guilty of that myself by not standing for the innocent. And I won't do that, because I have morals, and there are lines that I'm not willing to cross. I will speak against injustice, because not doing so is the greatest injustice that there is. And this is what they're doing. They sold to this machine that is radicalism. They sold, and they will tell you, no, we haven't done that. Yes, you have. When you are parroting what Hamas's charter tells you, that, suddenly a long time ago we had, the blood libel. And now apparently we were mixing the blood of Christian children into the matzah because it was fun to do on Pesach, which is ridiculous. Now we are being accused of famine and genocide and God knows what else, under the mantle of anti-racism. And I'm like, wow, you're justifying racism of the worst kind, one that led 6 million people to be disappeared, arguing anti-racism. That one I didn't see coming, but it is here. And Hollywood is playing into it. They are trying to outlaw Jewish music, Jewish actors. They want to cancel us out from every single space. And I'm like, what is it that you're worried about exactly? Is our existence polluting yours? Do you want to live under the Taliban? Because you are working towards it really fast. You're actually not walking anymore, you're running towards it. What they don't understand is that the second that you cancel people out, and you have to engage them, not cancel them, you are signing your death warrant. And I mean that intellectually, in that you become the monster of your own story, not ours. We are used to it. Jews have outlived and survived evil many times over. We'll do it again. Not that it's fun, but it became a national sport. Okay, we know how to do it. We've done it. But what worries me is that how is the West going to survive this? Because this is the second time around. They can't say they did not know. The first time the Nazis showed up, they could say, well, we didn't know, whatever, never again. Okay. What about now? What about now? You have context, historical context. You can't say you didn't know. You have social media and you do know. And you're not choosing better. So my question is this. Is this like a DNA thing? Is it inscribed in your genes? Do you like sending people to the train stations and kill them off? Is that fun for you? Is Hollywood making fun still of Nazi Germany when they were burning books? What's the difference? You're canceling out people from spaces. They need to answer those questions, and I don't think they're going to like the answers, but history will tell. I just feel sorry for those people. I genuinely do, because what are they going to tell their grandkids? What are you going to say? Oh, what were you doing? I was helping. I was collaborating. I was calling on fascism. It's going to be a fun conversation to be had.
Yeah, like what fascism are the stand-up comics fighting?
I don't know, but not mine. I don't know. They should be busy, speaking for inclusion. And you should tell young people also to get over themselves with this, like, oh, I'm offended. I don't care. You're not that special that you're not going to go through life and get offended once or twice. It's a thing. It's fine. It's okay to be offended because it forces you to maybe consider that maybe you're wrong. I don't know, shocker. But I've been wrong many times in my life. I got offended many times in my life. Good. I'm glad that I was offended because otherwise I would still be the silly little girl, who was 17 and didn't know any better. I paid the price of marrying the wrong person and landing myself into Islamic radicalism. I saw radicalism from up close and personal. It's not pretty. I bear the scars, like quite literally. I don't wish it on anybody, not even my enemies. It's not nice to be walking among those people. And it's not like I played by their book because I never believed. But there's a point where you're saying, like, what the heck am I doing here? Just because I was naive and believing, oh, we all equal. Yeah, not really. Not all ideas are equal. They're not. And when people tell you who they are, believe them. And I was under the impression that, oh, they are being misunderstood. Oh, no, it's just, it's a phase. No, it's not a phase. They are who they say they are. Unfortunately, we're not listening because we are actually, it's not because we're compassionate, it's weakness and cowardice. It's because we can't bear the idea that we might be the one to have to stop them, and we want to kind of, pass it on to someone else and say, well, you go do it. It doesn't work. If you see evil, it's up to you to fight it, because if you don't, you're guilty. You're guilty of collaboration. That's and it's not fun to say those things, because it means that you're going to have to do things that you don't want to do. And look, I'm saying those things. I'm risking my life by saying that. I'm still saying them, because what else am I going to do today? Am I going to say, oh no, the nice people, those who put women up for sale in Gaza, are the nice people? Do you know this little girl, the icici? She was taken when she was 6. She was found in Gaza. You explained to me how she crossed over from Iraq. Did she walk? She probably did. Somebody let her in. Somebody abused her for over a decade. And they're going to say, oh, but the IDF. No, the IDF freed her and we gave her back to her family, because we don't do that. And I'm not saying that abuses don't take place in Israel. Of course, they do it in society, and you have bad people in every society. But we don't write it in the book and to say that it's okay. Do you know what your right hand own? Yeah? Can somebody explain to me that one? Because I don't agree. You don't own a person, ever. I don't care if you marry it, if you make it, you don't own a person.
What do you think is the end result now of this never-ending conflict? That's probably my last question. With Trump's, Trump keeps warning everyone. Nobody seems to listen to Trump, to be very honest.
Can I
So,
tell you? This is what I say happened in America, and I think it's going to be replicated everywhere else, because what happens in America matters and usually ends up trickling, back to the rest of the world. I could see Donald Trump calling for emergency laws because he's going to have to. I could see Habeas corpus being suspended because he's going to have to. Because to protect democracy, sometimes you have to go all the way to the anti-democratic crowd and tools to protect what needs to be protected, because enough with asking questions and asking Congress to go, can you please, exercise judgment, because clearly they cannot. The Democrats are at war with democracy. They're going to need to be taken out. And I don't mean this literally, okay? I'm talking about the ideology that they are sustaining. It's going to need to be cut at the knee, and people to realize that it's a danger. The left is problematic. Again, I'm talking about the radical left. I'm not talking about the people in between, because for a very long time, I was a lefty. Okay? I still think I'm center left, but unfortunately, by today's standards, apparently I'm far right. I'm like, whatever. I didn't move, but they did. The world did. So I think that's what democracy will have to face. They're going to have to go to war with themselves first before they can clean up the house and help other people. I see alliances being formed, military alliances, and I see people going to war. But what do you do when war came to you? Because this is a real trick. Was like, war in the Middle East, it's over. It's done. Israel did it. I mean, we told the Iranians to sit down. They sat down. We're good now. The rest will kind of sort itself out. Now, Morocco's going to have a problem. Saudi Arabia should have listened to me when I said years ago, you're going to have a big problem and you think that we're going to be, we're going to free ourselves from it. You won't, because you are planning and selling Israel out, hoping that we would die first. Good news for you, they're coming too. So what do you say about Islamic radicalism when Islamic radicalism turns on Muslims? What do we call it then? Islamophobia? No. It's a radical problem that everyone has. So America, I think, will be in trouble. Thank God for Trump, because he knows, and the man is smart, and I'm sure he has a plan. But I think I see things evolving. Look, if I'm not mistaken, I think the National Guards were called in Chicago because the left doesn't want to listen anymore. So what's going to happen? I don't know. I see things in the UK going from bad to worse. I don't see the UK waking up. I really don't. I don't know. Because I don't think that our prime minister understands. And if he does, he's not willing to do anything about it because he's terrified what that would mean for him politically. And I would encourage state officials to understand something. If you are a civil servant and you have been elected, your duty is to serve the people, not your career. Stop doing it.
Fair enough. Catherine, as always, thank you very much for coming. I wish everybody safety and happiness. I know what happened in Manchester was an absolute travesty. I still think the Jewish community in the Western world needs to fight. They need to create more and more allies. Yeah, the pop culture shift in the Western world is something that I'm worried about. But I think those things can be managed if done deftly and with some sensibility. But let's see what the future holds. But please take care of yourselves and wish you
You
nothing but happiness.
too, you too. And I hope to see you soon. Well, at least, something good came out of all this is that we became friends. So there you go.
Yeah, always there, always there. So
Yeah, me
guys, wrapping up right now, but all the details, whether you want to buy Catherine's book, Catherine's X handle, everything, all the details are there in the description. Go follow her, subscribe to her. And as far as the Cārvāka podcast is concerned, you know the drill. This is a member driven podcast or a one time donation podcast. So all the details are there. And if you've not subscribed to the Cārvāka podcast till now, hit that subscribe button right now, like this video, and leave a comment in the comment section. I will see you guys next time. Until then, everybody take care. See you next time.